Good morning, everybody. Once again, welcome to our weekly table talk. We're so blessed to have had so many wonderful guests over the last several weeks, using this forum to be as creative and innovative as possible. Thank you, audience. Thank you. When it comes to communication, especially with our homebound, especially with those who choose not to come to church or attend parish functions because of health grounds or many other genuine reasons. So this is a nice way to continue to reach out to all our people, not just through weekend Zoom participation, but also in the course of each week, selecting a particular day to have a conversation with a high-profile guest. And today, our high-profile guest is the infamous Jenny Jung, who joins us this morning to speak about quilting. And you can see from the background, Jenny has brought 3 quilts representing men, women and children. And this ministry is so beautiful and so unique and unprecedented in our parish. So Jenny this morning will speak to us on the beautiful ministry of quilting. Jenny, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So here we have some quilts made so elegant by the ladies. Please tell us more about these quilts and quilting in general.
Okay, well, so these quilts, we brought a men's quilt, a woman's quilt, and then a child's quilt. We provide quilts by request from parishioners or family members, you know, whoever desires one.
That's okay, Jenny. This is live, and it's important that we be natural. And as I remind my guests over and over again, this is a time to be spontaneous,
Okay.
to have fun, to have blanks. Some weeks back I had a blank when I couldn't remember FDR name, Franklin. So, but as you said earlier, you brought these quilts. Tell us why we would have a child, for example, having a quilt.
Well, so our quilt requests are for people who are sick, who are terminally ill, who are going through very difficult situations, and you know, unfortunately we have children that get cancer, and unfortunately we have children that lose their parents, and so it's sad to think about, but we do supply quilts for children. We've made quilts for infants, you know, up through 100-year-old folks. So yeah, our quilt requests, we rely a lot on the Women's Acts prayer list that Kathy Sondergaard works at. We will contact people who request prayers for others from that prayer list. If it's not something like, you know, their son is in the military, please pray for my son. But, you know, if their son is in the military and was in a bombing accident, then certainly something like that. But yeah, so we're always open to requests for prayer quilts.
A mom and a dad who have a sick child,
Mm-hmm.
How is that request initiated? How do they come to know about the quilt?
You know, that's a good question. We used to be able to do pulpit talks, and we would receive numerous requests after we would do a pulpit talk. You know, I guess mostly just word of mouth. There's several of us that are in the group, and I think that we're all as passionate about the honeybee quilters as I am, and so we talk about it a lot. So you can ask any of the quilters. You can call the church and leave a message saying you'd like to request. You know, the church isn't going to take your request, but they will take your information and pass it along to one of us in the quilting, and then we'll get a hold of you to visit with you about that.
Prior to COVID-19, pulpit talks always generated controversy.
Mm-hmm.
We have, you know, a society and a culture that has become very impatient, that has become very antsy if a certain time frame is not met. And then in our past, we had wonderful organizations with permission go to the pulpit and speak about their respective ministries. Over time, those pulpit talks generated a lot of controversy because of time and impatience. How do you feel about that controversy, knowing that in your case and in the case of quilting ministry, it is such an awesome way to communicate, especially to a parent with a sick child?
Yeah, you know, we always appreciated being able to take 10 minutes of the parish's time to be able to do the pulpit talk. We feel like we serve a great purpose here within the church. I know from thank you notes that we've received that people are overwhelmed with the love and generosity and just knowing that there's somebody else out there that cares for them. And that's really what we want. We want to provide comfort, and we want to provide some healing prayers. We do pray over all the quilts. All our quilts are blessed with holy water. And you know, of course, we make the quilt. We don't know who they're for. Normally, we don't know who they're for. Sometimes we will make a quilt especially for a person, if we know a little bit more about that person. But yeah, we feel like the pulpit talk, I know, benefited us. That was one way we got some new members into our group as well, because like I said, there's a lot of people that just don't know we're out there.
It is a shame that men and women and young adults have become so impatient.
Yeah.
You know, almost to the point of, please do not inconvenience me with this additional announcement, with this additional time placed upon me. How do we fix that, Jenny?
Oh gosh.
How do we fix this trend becoming more and more pronounced in society when it comes to impatience and inconvenience?
You know, if you're in relationship to the church, you've got so many other, I'm going to call them distractions outside of the church. Yeah, we got to get home because football starts, you know, or I've got a lunch date with that group of folks, and you know, it starts at 11. I got to get out of here, you know, and so I think that's why people just have other things going on in their lives, and they're not focusing on God for even that 1 hour. You know, I don't know how you fix it.
An ongoing task.
Mm-hmm.
The quilting membership.
Yes.
We have women from times past who now are with the Lord.
Yes.
We now have women from times past who are going through many health challenges.
Yes.
Would you like to speak to any particular person or persons who were a part of this ministry in times past, be they deceased or sick?
Well, you know, I tell you right now, Joan Werner is our, we call her our Queen Bee. She was the one who formed the Honeybee Quilters. She's had,
Thank you,
thank you. She's had a very difficult 1.5 years, 2 years. She lost her husband Dennis last year in March, and then she was in a horrible car wreck. Well, she has back problems to begin with. She was in a horrible car wreck back in the fall, and she's been recuperating from that, and recently had back surgery that hopefully will heal her back and keep her out. So, you know, Joan Warner is always one that we pray for. And we've had, we've got other members who go through rough times throughout, and so our organization is for outside people, but it's also a healing for us because, you know, we're a big sisterhood, and it's a great group of ladies that we deal with.
Beautiful, beautiful, Jenny. This is a time to continue to wish Joan well,
Yes.
to continue to offer our prayers and support. She knows we love her, we know she loves us, and we continue to keep Joan and her family in our prayers and in our thoughts. Going back in time, Jenny, in the early years of your life, you were in law enforcement.
I was.
From law enforcement to quilting, how in God's name did that happen?
Well, yeah, from law enforcement to quilting. I would have to say that I inherited an artistic gene from both of my parents. My dad is he's a beautiful woodworker. He makes bowls. And my mom has always done hand stitching, embroidery, crewel work, whatever. And I think I inherited from both of them some artistic, I don't know, abilities, I suppose. And so I don't know, it just came naturally. I'd rather be doing my quilting than working. I'd rather be doing this kind of work in a ministry than earning a living.
We this past year we saw the police force in many cities and many states being placed under the microscope. As a former law officer, when you see what is happening in society with the intense pressure placed on our men and women in blue, how does that make you feel, knowing the career you came from, and you see the scrutiny that they are under today, in all walks of life?
Yeah, it's very sad. My husband spent his career in law enforcement. And so I am aware of how they're trained and how they're trained to handle any type of a situation. And, pulling your gun is a last case resort. And if the law enforcement officer feels that threatened, or feels that there's a threat to people around him in such a degree that they have to pull their gun, that's exactly what they're trained to do. Yeah, they've taken a lot of bad heat, and that's not to say that all cops are good cops. There's bad CPAs, there's bad priests, there's bad cops, but that's the exception to the rule. And they're out there trying to save us, trying to keep us safe and warm in our homes, and yeah, they've taken a lot of heat. It's sad.
And I do agree with you, Jenny. In every walk of life, in every vocation, in every profession, without exception, there are bad apples that can tar and destroy so many wonderful priests and police officers, doctors, nurses. In each and every vocation, in each and every profession, there is always one or two bad apples that sadly tar the whole picture, the whole force, the whole priesthood, the whole medical profession. And how tragic.
Well, the good don't get the notoriety, the bad get the attention.
Exactly. I always have a tremendous love and respect for men and women in uniform, and certainly now in the context of the police force, knowing your professional background, especially when I look back on the day of my dad's funeral. We were all processing out of church, and my dad's coffin was in the hearse. And as the hearse was driving out of the church property, we as a family walked behind the hearse en route to the graveyard. What struck my attention, a police officer was standing in the parking lot in uniform. The moment he saw my dad coming out in the hearse, in his coffin, he saluted him. And I was so touched and so moved to see a police officer salute my dad in his coffin en route to the cemetery. And I would always have that awesome memory of a police officer offering respect and love through a profound salute. It was so moving, audience. And I'm sure, audience, you have your own memories and stories of your experience of men and women in uniform who mean so much to you and your families in their daily lives. Thank you. Jenny, how did you find us as a parish?
We moved back into this area in 2014. Bought a little house up at Canyon Lake. And I believe there's St. Thomas over at Canyon Lake. We went to, we were searching for a church. But like so many people that I've heard say, you walk into our church and it's so warm and it's so welcoming, and there's the feeling of love and togetherness in this church. I wouldn't go anywhere else. We've recently moved north of Bernie, and it's a pretty good drive for us to get back here. Bernie would be much closer, but I would not leave this church. I don't know. It has a feeling of its own. I think we're unique out here.
I would certainly agree with that. There is such a tremendous sense of family.
Yes.
And such a tremendous sense of humour, and fun and mischief.
Yeah.
Although we live in a very hypersensitive society, the moment we gather in that vestibule, I don't believe anyone is safe. We can walk in, we can make fun of Charles, we can make fun of Sue, we can make fun of Ginny, you can make fun of me. Father Jimmy Drennan of times past made fun of me at a funeral when I wore my red shoes. And I saw him wearing his SWAT shoes, had not been polished in months. And I said to him, you can't talk, look how filthy your SWAT shoes are. At least my red shoes are clean and polished, no different than my blue shoes today, nice. And I decided to wear blue in support of our men and women in uniform, especially our police force. In my country, the uniform is blue. And I chose today, in respect to you, Jenny, and Tim, being former members of the police force, to wear my blue hat, my blue shirt, and my blue shoes, and my blue socks. So this is a nice way to promote fashion. So I encourage you to give our office a call if you need some guidance on fashion. Please give me a call, Rose Mendez, Sue Torres, and we will send you links to where we purchase our respective clothing and footwear. So on that note, Jenny, it's always a pleasure. Please come back and see us, and maybe, please God, we will invite Tim to extend the conversation into law enforcement as we move on with additional guests over the next few weeks. Once again, thank you for joining us. We love you and leave you. God bless.